I'm with Gary Reynolds, Chief Investment Officer, to find out how the year started. Gary, hi.
Happy New Year, Leo.
Happy New Year to you. We're zooming into the norm again.
Here we are.
2025 before we know it. Gary, last October things looked all doom and gloom. Things picked up. By the point of the seminar, you were talking positive. All the funds made returns by the end of the year. Where are we now?
Well, I've got to say, at the end of October last year, I wasn't looking forward to the December seminars as much as I'd looked forward to them previously. You know, you don't want to be getting up in front of your investors when a lot of them are losing money with us on the 10 months at the end of October. But the turnaround came quite nicely, and we finished the end of December with positive returns on all the funds. And that was a big improvement from the end of October, particularly for the global fund and particularly for the ethical fund. So it was great, which meant that investors had a happier new year, and so did everybody on the investment team.
Excellent. So you're talking about cheap stocks all the time. Now are these stocks being recognised? Are the prices of them going up?
I think what's happened is that people have begun to get reticent about putting more money into the Magnificent Seven stocks. You know, your Apples, your Nvidias, your Amazons, your Googles and Metas. And so some of that money has rotated out and found its way into other stocks. And I think this will continue through this year. But if what your implication is, I've said we're holding lots of stocks at a great value, their prices have gone up, are they still great value? The answer is they are still great value, because these stocks are delivering very good net profits, very, very good cash. You know, they're generating cash, a lot of them are paying great dividends. So I think this next 10 years is going to look very, very good indeed. And I think what's also, ironically, going to make it very good is that a lot of people are quite depressed about the future. They're depressed about politics in this country. They're depressed about politics across the Atlantic. They're depressed about the effects of AI. Virtually everybody's talking about AI being an existential risk to human beings. But there is so much positives, and we'll sort that out. But there's loads and loads of positives that are going to make this next decade very exciting. So I'm expecting good returns over the next 10, 15 years, big improvement in productivity. It'll be great for people in work. They should get increases in real incomes in Europe, in the UK, in the US. And by definition, companies that can lean into that should do well.
Just thinking about the rise of AI, you know, it's a big thing. It's changing the way that we live, the way that we think, the way we operate. Taking it to the next level, we've got space. Is there anything you're looking at in that area? You know, is this an industry that is going to boom, say, in the next 10 years?
So what we look at are the companies that could benefit from AI. So certainly education companies, if you're a provider of education tools, then AI gives you the ability to mass replicate tutors for one-on-ones, which you can't get. You know, if you're tapping into electronic information as an individual, whether you're an adult or a child, generally you're having to read or watch or listen and draw your own conclusions. What AI will enable that experience to do is for you to question AI and it to have an interaction with you. Now, once you get that, research suggests that if you can get individual mentoring, say on kids in particular, they will become better performers. You know, you'll get an average student becomes a very, very good student. Below average student becomes above average. Very, very good. A very, very good video out on as a TED talk from the guy that formed the Khan Academy on education, and that's obviously an area that can benefit both for individuals who are online and in our schools. Really, really exciting, because if you can, you educate people better, you educate these youngsters better, they carry all that education forward, and you get an explosion in productivity, and generally they get more from their lives, which is not all about money. It's all about the whole life experience. It's very, very exciting.
It's acceleration, isn't it?
Yeah.
So back to the question: is there anything in space?
In terms of, we're not going for the companies. This looks like I'm avoiding the question, doesn't it, Leah? Which I'm not trying to do, but I'm trying to avoid saying there are specific businesses to look at.
Sure.
What I would say is this: you have to be very careful of the companies that are providing the tools for AI. So Nvidia is an obvious example that trades on a massive multiple of earnings, and I think that's not where you look. You look to the other companies. So you can look at which car companies could benefit from this. Tesla's price, because it's expected to benefit from AI, but everybody seems to have forgot about all the other companies that are doing well. So we hold Stellantis. Fantastic earnings, fantastic cash generation, remarkable diversification of models, including electric vehicles. And then, of course, there's hydrogen. There's all sorts of ways the AI will play out.
Thanks, Gary. So back a bit closer to home, Earth. What markets are we looking at?
Well, we really like our own economy. We really like prospects for the UK. We like prospects for UK businesses. You can pick up the UK. It's very, very cheap. The point that Jake made at the December seminars was that, Apple, the value of Apple is equivalent to the top 100 companies in the UK and the next 250, and certainly back in December, you still got $8 billion in your pocket as change. So you could sell Apple, buy the 350 biggest companies in the UK. Now that can't be right. That just can't be right. There's no way Apple is worth the FTSE 350 with all these wonderful companies, all these diverse range of companies that are pioneering and doing great things. Look how well we did. Great example. Look how well we did with that vaccination. When you get our excellent educational institutions working with some of our excellent businesses, you get great effects. That's at the core of what we have in this country, and it's going to be very, very exciting. So lots of very, very good UK companies, lots of good US companies as well, but not in that expensive tech sector. We're steering away from that as much as we can. We have some incidental exposure to it, but we're being very, very careful. Emerging markets look very, very good. India is a great place to look at, and I get asked this question a lot, but the stocks there are very expensive and it's very difficult to trade Indian companies. When you come outside of that, places like Brazil are very cheap. Hong Kong and China are very cheap, but they're probably cheap, they're arguably cheap for a reason. Lots of worries about what the Chinese Communist Party is doing to the Chinese economy and the way in which it infringing on the individual rights of businesses. So you don't really want to be an investor in a business that comes under the scrutiny of the Chinese Communist Party, because the chances are you're not going to get your capital out then. But aside from that, lots of great opportunities. Some decent companies in Japan is beginning to look good again. It looks like, we're coming perhaps to the end of this zero interest rate period in Japan, and things are steadying down now. So you can find great options around the world, but you've got to be discerning. And I'd say to anybody, be very, very careful if you're going to start paying 70, 100 times earnings for tech companies, because at some stage you're going to lose a lot of money.
So Gary, we're talking about AI, improvements in education, acceleration of knowledge. This all has a knock-on effect, greater productivity and the likes. Changes abound. Does this mean that your investment strategy you're going to have to keep reviewing more regularly because the world is subject to greater change?
Well, we're looking at the investment strategies all the time. So there's never a day goes by where you don't think what's happening, but you think within the confines of or the restraints that are put on you by the fact that our investors are long-term investors and risk averse, because we people entrust us with their money that they need to get them through the rest of their lives, or for institutions such as pension funds and charities that have got people relying on them paying out money for the long run. This is not speculative capital. So we can take can and do take a very long-term view. But sometimes you have to tilt quite strongly. And probably a very, very good example of this is 2022, where as we came into that period when interest rates peaked, we had moved right away from long-dated bonds. So when that bust came in the UK gilt market in the August of 2022, we were not exposed to it, and we avoided the malaise that took place. After which we began to pick up some gilts because that you could suddenly start buying them at UK government bonds at reasonable yields for the long term. So all the time, Leo, that's happening within the team, and we've started tilting away from the big tech companies at the end of 2022 and the start of 2023. We were a bit early because they shot away. They if you pick the Magnificent Seven in 2023, congratulations, you had a fantastic year. If you picked them in 2022, you had a disastrous year. So we're on that all the time. But I think what's exciting for us now is the number of decent companies that you can pick up at a reasonable price with decent balance sheets, good profits, and they're generating cash. And I haven't seen anything as good as this for a long, long time.
Does that mean the team's busier?
Well, the team's always busy because they're constantly reviewing what we've got and what we might buy. And we have a very strict screening process. We've had other duties put onto the team in the recent years because we've obviously got the ethical fund now. I don't think the team's any busier than it was, say, in the summer of 2020 when we had to review everything because the pandemic had come along and we had to think, how does this pandemic affect what we're holding? I think the difference at the moment is that you're like a kid in a sweet shop. There's loads and loads of great stuff on the shelves and you're being told, go and help yourself. These are all at knockdown prices. And do you pick the sherbet lemons or the bonbons or the licorice sticks? Everything is looking reasonably priced at the moment. So we can be discerning, and that's exciting, but it brings its own pressures.
Okay, Gary, so sticking to the future, and to conclude now, AI, what do you think is going to be the greatest impact in people's lives?
Well, something I think is fascinating is that what you can do with AI now is you can put enough information in about a person, you can recreate them. So we can create AI avatars of people. So viewers in a couple of years' time will have to guess whether it's you and me having this chat or whether it's an avatar of you or an avatar of me. And for posterity, what some people have done is created AI avatars of their grandparents so that they can keep going to them for advice long into the future. This person who did that thought that was a very, very good idea. If you ask my two children as to whether they think that's a good idea, that they can come and consult me in 40, 50 years' time when I'm long gone, they might give a different answer.
Okay, thank you, Gary. So, Happy New Year from the real Leo and the real Gary. Or is it?